couple of months ago, Jack and I, remember you said, why aren't more people interested in Oncidiums? Because it's just the perfect time, late summer, early fall. And I'm surprised that a lot of people don't get into Oncidiums. Hopefully, because Sarah brought some Oncidiums, because I love them. And there's so many different ones, and they're all grouped as Oncidiums. So let's learn some more about how to take care of them. So Sarah, take the floor. You use the jack, aren't you?
Yeah, I just have to change the program here real quick. Take me just a couple seconds. And there we go. All right, we're going to talk about Oncidiums, Intergeneric Oncidiums, and basically the Oncidium Alliance. Now, I'm an AOS judge, so you got 2 slides, maybe 3, of technicalities, and I'll try not to go too overboard on those. But the Oncidinae is a subtribe within the Orchidaceae that consists of a number of genera that are closely related. There's a genus and there's lots of genera. So this is Latin again, guys. This subtribe consists of about 70 genera with over 1,000 species, with Oncidium as its largest genus. Now, Oncidinae is the subtribe, and then there's a bunch of genuses within the subtribe. Oncidium rather than Oncidinae, yeah. It's the Greeks and the Latins again. Vegetative characteristics. These are distinguished by 1 or 2 flattened leaf pseudobulbs, usually subtended by disticus. That's how you pronounce that one. Leaf-like sheaths where the inflorescence emerges from their axil. Most of these are epiphytes, tend to grow in trees, or more rarely grown on embankments or terrestrially in the ground, and where they can enjoy any climb depending on the specific environment for the species. Translated. All right, let's just steal a plant here. Okay, the pseudobulbs, this part, tends to be oval and round and tends to be flattened, smashed. So they're more of a discoid. They have a number of leaves coming out of the top of the pseudobulbs, 1 to 3 to 4, depending upon the particular species. Then this subtended by disticus leaflet, those are these things. Okay, down at the bottom you have a couple of these sheaths coming off the bottom of the pseudobulb. Okay, and the inflorescence comes out of the base down there. In addition, they tend to be right next door to each other. In other words, there's no rhizome, no stem between the pseudobulbs. Okay? Bulbophyllums, for instance, have a rhizome between the pseudobulbs, tend to have a round pseudobulb, and they don't have these sheaths here at the bottom, even though the inflorescence still comes out of the base of the pseudobulb. Okay. It's kind of fun. This way, sometimes when you look at them over here, without flowers on them, which are pretty distinctive, you have some idea that it is in this group. There are exceptions. As you all know, growing orchids, there's always exceptions. Okay, and what I'm going to do here first is go through some of the more common genera that are in this group. Okay? So these are all genera within the Oncidium Alliance. And first, we'll talk about Brasias. These are our spider orchids. Okay? Brasia vericosa is one of the species. We've all seen Brasia rex at the shows, great big gorgeous things. Okay? Then we have the Miltonias. Specifically, Miltonias are sometimes called Brazilian Miltonias. That is spectabilis in some of its hybrids. These are different. This is a different genera, or different genus, than Miltoniopsis. Miltoniopsis are your pansy orchids. Again, they're all within the Oncidium alliance. Rosellii there is one of the species, and that's just Kenny over there is an example of the hybrids. Now, everybody knows how to read labels, so you know why the Rosellii is a species. Rosellii is not capitalized, means it's a species. If the second word is capitalized, it's a hybrid. Odontoglossum. Now, this is where we get into terminologies and those sticking taxonomists. Almost all odontoglossums are now considered oncidiums. You will still see them listed as odontoglossums. You will still hear people talk about odonts. Okay? Alexandrae, which used to be something else before it was an oncidium, is one of the species. The example there on the right is simply a hybrid. Odonts, pure odonts, are cool growing, native to high elevations in Colombia and some of the other tropical countries. And if you want to grow true odonts, you need to live in Seattle because they like it cool and cloudy and rainy and humid. Okay, and you will almost never ever see a true odont at a show in the Midwest. We simply cannot grow them unless you want to air condition your greenhouse. I haven't even tried. Okay, so again, the odonts tend to be this they're not huge. They're reasonable flowers. They tend to be kind of frilly. They tend to be stellate or star-like, and they're gorgeous things. And some of the species are hugely spectacular. But again, that's the odonts. Fortunately, we can breed these characteristics into the hybrids. Oncidiums, and now there's lots and lots of oncidiums, okay? I tend to, when I think oncidium, think these little bitty things that are chyroform and 3 or 4 other species, and then they hybrid them up. Supermarket breed is a very, very common thing. These are lovely little bunches of cascades of itty-bitty flowers. They're just cute as the dickens. But there are lots of different kinds of oncidiums. Again, there's probably 600 or 700 species, and then we started to hybridize them. Spaculatum has a nice little yellow flower with spikes like this. I've got one of these. You've all seen it at the show. Okay? It grows on a 2x4, a great big old piece of cork bark, and it does. Every year in the spring it comes down here to your show because it has these great big inflorescences on it. It's wonderful. It's a weed. You cannot kill it. Another example there of one of the species is Lupicula. And then we have species that are now oncidiums that used to be other things. Cochleoida, Nazelia, or Noesliana is where a lot of the orange color came from. All of your trichocentrums, which tend to be, people sometimes used to call those the mule ear oncidiums, the real thick, heavy leaves. These are all oncidiums now. The reason I'm just really hitting this is because you'll still see labels that say trichocentrum, or cochleoides, or odontoglossum, and it gets worse, guys. But wait, there's more. These used to be oncidiums, and now they're in the family Gomisa. Okay, whatever. I mean, again, they vaguely look like the Oncidium. Vegetatively, they look very much alike. Tend to have this nice, pretty, long inflorescence in a variety of colors. Gomisas come as little itty-bitty as the one I had here, and some of these are great big things with spikes like this. I'm not going to show you all 700 species, I promise. Okay. For instance, this was always, Gallo Ramsey was always an oncidium, but it's gotten renamed and now it's Oncidisa because it's a Gomesa crossed on an oncidium. This one's been around forever. Everybody ought to have one. oftentimes called the dancing lady orchid, okay? And this is an Oncidium, but the equitant Oncidiums, which you will see shown as equitant Oncidiums, are actually Tolumnias and Rodriguesias. These are also called dancing ladies. They're little small, hot-growing plants. They're twig apophytes. They're little itty-bitty plants, grow out on the far end of the twigs. They generally have no significant pseudobulbs, which is why they're over in these other generas. But they hybridize with each other and with Gomeza, and you'll see these a lot too. We are not talking about these today as intergeneric Oncidiums, but they're pretty. Okay, a little term. This is, I promise, the last terminology slide. An intrageneric hybrid is a hybrid of two species within a genus, a Cattleya and a Cattleya. Okay, in the animal kingdom, what you're most familiar with is a mule, which is a horse and a donkey. They're both in the genus Equus. Okay, they're really pretty rare in the animal kingdom. There are some examples in birds. In the animal kingdom, intrageneric hybrids tend to be sterile. When you get over in the plant kingdom, though, you can go to intergeneric hybrids, which are hybrids of individuals from two different genuses, genera. This is extremely rare in the animal kingdom. Okay, there are some examples in the birds, but it's fairly common in the plant kingdom, even in things like triticale, which is a hybrid of wheat and rye. Those are two different genuses. Okay, they're two different genera in the grass family. But that's a commercially grown hybrid. And the Oncidia go a little bit overboard with this. And I'm not even going to go down there and try to pronounce all of those or bore you with what they are. But these are some of the labels you're going to see on plants on the table when you go to look at it. Okay, and just quickly, Aliciera, Burragiera, Degarmoara, I'm not even going to try that next one, Residium, Bocastera, Oncidopsis, Wilsonera, Colonara, blah, 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 blah. Okay? And these are those are the species over to the side that you mix up to get those names. Okay? Oftentimes in terminology, if you're marrying two genuses, okay, they just kind of combine them. Okay, a Brazocattleya. When you get in 3 or 4 more, they make up a new name. Yes, sir?
So to be clear, these are genuses that are made by combining other genuses.
Yes,
They're
sir.
the same rank as genuses.
Right.
Genus.
Yeah, they are hybrid genera. They are genuses that are hybrids. And it's a way for us to try to keep track of them, although as you can see, and you will continue to see, in this group, it's a royal can of worms. Keith.
Of that list, from your experience, would you point out the ones, from your experience, that require as cool temperatures as possible?
No. Okay.
Well, look at all those on blossom.
Yeah, but you don't know on what particular, let's just take that for instance, let's try the Volstikiera down there, right in the middle, okay?
Yeah.
Which is Cochleoida, which is now Oncidium, times Miltonia, times Odontoglossum. That is the same genus whether that particular plant has 10% Odontoglossum in it or 80%. Because this isn't always a this times this times this. This is this time this times its second cousin 3 times removed.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know you wanted an easy answer, but there's not one. Orchid Whiz does have a parental, there's a program called Orchid Whiz. If anybody's not familiar with it, buy it. Okay, but there is a place where it gives you a pie chart of what percentage of the ancestry is what, and I can show you up here afterwards, is what genera, okay? So,
This is the one that starts with V there in the middle,
yeah.
and you have one or two of them, they're beautiful.
Oh, they're gorgeous. But
A lot of them before, in the glow.
Mhm.
But maybe it's because they were packed with sphagnum and they overwatered, I don't know.
Well-
But they, and I have a water cooler, it's never gone over 86 degrees. They just go down to the nine.
It is to some extent individual, or your experience with individual plants and names. Okay, this is a screenshot from Orchid Whiz. Okay, and this is looking at what is now called Olesiera markfitch, which used to be Valerian. And and again, anybody wants to look at this program afterwards, we'll pull it up and I'll show you how to get here. Sander, the name where it says Sander up there, that's the original registry of orchid hybrids. And Sander to this day keeps a registry of orchid hybrids. But as they have renamed all of these things because of the stupid, okay, they have given them new names. RHS is Royal Horticultural Society. And they also, actually today, if I'm going to register a new cross, it has to go to RHS. Okay, so you tend to have the Sanders name, which is the old one, and the RH name, which is the currently accepted. Okay? And don't get married to these, because currently accepted means just exact at this moment. Okay, who knows what they're going to do 5 years from now. But as you can see here, because the cochleoida is no longer, it has become an Oncidium, and so has the Odontoglossum. I'll just tell you because I know this. Okay, now you still have the Brassia, you still have the Matonia, you still have the Oncidium. And what they've done here is, these are the old names, and these are the new names over here. The point again is, when you look at the labels, do the best you can and recognize the, especially the abbreviations. So you know they're in there somewhere. If you really want to know what's in it, you've got to go to a source like Orchid Whiz, or talk to somebody that knows. Again, if you see a plant that has round, oval, flattened pseudobulbs that are close together, no visible rhizomes, 1 to several leaves at the top of the pseudobulbs, sheaths down at the base where the inflorescence comes out of those sheaths. And I'll add this, the old pseudobulbs definitely tend to lose their leaves and kind of get shriveled up and ugly. That's an Oncidium alliance plant of some sort, with exceptions. With exceptions. But that's just kind of a good rule of thumb. Outgrowth. They're kind of halfway between Phalaenopsis and cats. Okay? A little more light than actually quite a little bit more light than a Phalaenopsis, but you don't have to give them as much as you have to give a cat to get them to bloom. Okay? A little less water than a Phalaenopsis, but not quite as dry every time as a cat. Okay, kind of in between somewhere. In my greenhouse, we've got the light end and the dull end, and the Oncidiums tend to be in the middle somewhere. Do not overpot these suckers. Okay? You'll see that everything over in here mostly is in a 4-inch pot, and they like to crawl out of them, and that's just fine. Okay? Relatively coarse media. Okay, yes, those are fine little roots, and you'd think you'd put them in a finer media. If you're using bark, I tend to put them in a relatively coarse media. Now, I like to water, so yeah. You do see them grown in sphagnum. I guess it's so if you're in a very humid environment and they're in sphagnum, you only have to water them every 10 days or so. I don't know, it wouldn't work for me. But you will see them come in sphagnum. When I repot them, they all go into bark. They tend to go into baskets for me because, again, I'm kind of a water maniac. Depending upon the heritage of an individual hybrid, it may like to be cooler or hotter or drier, etc. You've got to play around with them. You can look at the ancestry that will give you some hints, but there is definitely a learning curve, and like I said, I like orchids that bloom for me, so we'll go over some of the ones I like because, fertilize them consistently, most of them, just like, grow all the time. Most of them do not require a rest or a dry period. And then I like to repot when the new growth is as tall as the largest pseudobulb. That has worked well for me. So if I have a plant that's got a big pseudobulb here, when the new growth that comes out of the base here gets this big, that's when I repot it. Ideally. I also repot them anytime I got time. So, and it doesn't seem, they don't seem to get too unhappy about it. But ideally, that's when I like to repot them. And again, you'll have little short pseudobulbs, and you've got some that have big tall pseudobulbs, and that's just a consistent thing that I can tell people and seems to work for most of them. Repot them every year or two, depending on how fast you're accumulating salts and how big they're outgrowing in the pot. If anybody's ever done back bulbs, it does work on these guys. The old bulbs where the leaves have fallen off, if it's not mushy and it's still hard and you can pop it off and it's butt naked, you can stick it in a pot with some media and a lot of them will go ahead and sprout and you've got another plant. May take you a while, but it's kind of a fun thing to do. It doesn't take up much space on the bench. Okay, now I'm going to go over some of my favorites, okay? And as far as I'm concerned, if you want to try one of these, the best one to start with is Oncidium Wildcat, and there are some over here getting ready to pop. They used to be called Colmenaris, and most of them you will see labeled as Colmenaris, or C-O-L-M. Oncidium, and again, I'm not going to get into the genetics, they've changed it around, so that's an Oncidium instead of a Colmenara, whatever. There are a whole bunch of different clones of Wildcat. These are sisters and brothers, okay? It was a great cross that got lots of different siblings that are nice plants. They are all cast iron, absolutely cast iron. They grow great in Wichita, they grow great wherever these you have to be with a stick to kill, okay? I have got both Carmela and Green Valley over here on the table. Somebody already picked up the Golden Red Star. There's 3 or 4 different ones, doesn't matter. If you're going to try one of these. The most fragrant is this stinky thing, Oncidium Sherry Baby. There's a couple of offspring, one's called Heaven Sent, one's called Sweet 16. I've got 3 of the Sherry Babies over here. If you like chocolate, I love chocolate. I don't like the way Sherry Babies smell, but I spent a whole drive with a bunch of them in the back of the van, and they just don't do it for me anymore. That was too much chocolate, which is saying something for me. Great flowers, again, really cast iron. Biggest problem I have with them is they tend to be kind of long and lanky, but they do smell good. If you like smell good, there you go. And now we're just going to kind of go through again. These are very common. You'll see them around. These are plants that I've grown that I like. And I'm just going to kind of go through them so you've heard the name somewhere. Nellie Eiler was a Burgiara, or B-U-R-R is what you see. It's now an Oncidopsis. Smaller plant, much smaller plant, nice bright little red flower. I have seen these at Lowe's. It's just a cute little plant, and it's not as big as some of these monsters. This, however, is a great big thing. This is Presidium magnificus Bob Henley. It used to be an Odontogracia. There's the, again, abbreviation. This is heavy Brazia. Heritage, obviously, spider orchid. These things are about like this. We'll throw a big old spike, long, tall, skinny pseudobulbs. If you like them big and bold, this is kind of a cool plant. There's another Presidium Nittany Gold. This one's actually pretty small. Okay, for some reason they managed to breed this one small. Nice bright yellow little flowers. Razzia Orange Delight. This one was real common in the marketplace a couple, 3 years ago. I haven't seen it recently. Anybody sees this by me? Because this one's orange, which is a really unusual color in the spider orchids. Almost all of the species are green. And they cross this up on something to get the orange color, and it's a really cute little thing. Again, it used to be a rosata. And then we get into some of the ones with the Odontoglossum heritage. Tiger crow used to be an Oncidium. Okay, there's tiger crow, there's tiger brew, there's a couple different tigers. These suckers are yellow. I mean, they are bright. I've seen them at the Red River Show. I've seen them around here. So very definitely a cross that will take the temperatures. Nice bright yellow things will grow into nice big specimen plants. These are really quite easy. Oncidium, again, used to be an Odonticidium. St. Anthony of Egypt. That is the brightest yellow lip you've ever seen on a plant. But just kind of interesting, and these are really hard. These are thick, hard flowers, as opposed to a lot of them that tend to be a little light in substance, but a great plant as well. Aliciera, Peggy Ruth Carpenter, this one used to be a Valeria. There's 2 clones out there. Morning Joy is actually a gray purple. It's the coolest color you've ever seen. J.E.M. or Gem is another clone. I've got Gem. I'm missing my Morning Joy, and whoever got that out of me, I want it back. Again, these are on and off the market, okay? Most of these are very commercial flowers, and you'll see them at the shows. And somebody, again, you're talking a 3 to 4 year lead time on these plants. So somebody will grow up a bunch and they'll be on the commercial market and they get the crop sold and they can tend to kind of go away after a while. So you find something you like, you can grow, hang on to it. It may or may not ever be back. Bertonia Charles M. Fitch. This is actually the Izumi cross. This is another cast iron plant. Kind of a grayish purple, a little spidery, but really nice spikes. And again, down here, it's Bertonia now, which is a Brazia times Miltonia. And it used to be a Miltassia, which was a Brazia times Miltonia. There's no, obviously they thought it was Miltonia times Brazia originally with Sanders, so it was a Miltassia, and now they've decided that the Brazia comes first, so it's Bertonia. I mean, is it a Mayan or a liger, I guess? Is it a heap or a sheep or a whatever? Doesn't matter. Again, Aliciera Memoria J. Yamada. This one's a little more purple. It's got some really striped markings on it. Anything with the name Butterbuds in it, it's got to be good. Much more yellow. This is a fairly new one on the market, and this is a straight Oncidium Irish Mist. It's green, really a pretty green. It has a really well presented inflorescence. Okay, they really are. They're just nice and even and very well presented. A little open, but cute. Aliciera Winter Wonderland. There's a number of the white ones out there. This is one of my favorites. Again, this one's a little old as far as when it was available. I actually managed to get that one awarded. And today we have a bunch of these tropic lilies, although they say these are good Lieras, or used to be, and now they're listed. I don't know. Who cares? Oncidopsis Maui Charm. This is a little bitty thing. That baby is Barbie doll pink. Okay, it's got a little bit of fragrance to it. It's a nice little flower. This one I found to be challenging, and I don't know why. Okay, it's been all over the greenhouse. I haven't killed it. Okay, I know the people who bred this. and did the original cross and had the exclusive rights to it, and it's in a greenhouse in Hawaii at 800 feet off of sea level. So it should be warm and hot and wet, and I don't know. I keep working on it because I like it. And then there's the itty bitty types. There's twinkles, gold dust, ruffles. These are all of the chiropedal crosses, what you think of these little bitty Oncidiums, and they do these cascades of little bitty flowers. Ruffles actually has some smell to it. Oncidium catatonke, and I've got this on the table. This thing is cast iron. If you like fall colors, absolutely cast iron, puts up these big pretty spikes. Great plant to start with if you've got space for something a little bigger, because yeah, my specimen plant is growing into a plant. Gilded tower, I didn't even look up what they thought that was. It's now a Oncidopsis. Okay. Very, very dramatic markings. This is an oldie but goodie. Oncidopsis cangra. This is a how do you want to pronounce it, guys? It's getting late in the talk, and I'm not going to bother. This one first came out almost 20 years ago. It is crimson purple. That is not the best color. It is an absolutely stunning color. Don't see it around much anymore. If I find one of these, I will buy it. I kind of expect them again to go back through in a couple of years. When I bought it, I was in the old greenhouse. I managed to kill it, so I'd like to try this one again, just because it is so stunning. They're not very big, but they're just glorious. And by far, this is my #1 personal favorite, is Marfish Howard's Dream. It's an absolutely glorious plant. Now, I know it's purple. I'm from Kansas. Any color purple is okay. But this thing will put up a big old spike. These flowers are 4 to 6 inches. It is just an absolutely gorgeous plant. Everybody ought to try one. And I think that's it. Questions? Yes, sir.
These things are obviously being very commercially produced by the millions. Where? Are they coming into the country from Thailand?
Sure.
Is there production coming out of South Florida? What?
Sure. Most of the ones that I have access to are being seeded and platted in Thailand. Okay, they come over in flask, and then they're grown from flask to bloom in Hawaii. Okay, so they're coming, and the Hawaiian growers are actually sending their pods to Taiwan to be platted, just because of the costs involved. Pearl.
A speaker by the name of Claire Ocean had a program that I agreed with. It was, let's shoot all the taxonomists.
I would agree with you, except I find the subject fascinating. So, and I keep thinking that I'm going to take some classes and get a little deeper into it. My genetics is 40 years out of date, and they're doing a lot with the sequencing and stuff, and so rearranging all of this. Ken and I were talking about this earlier, and I expect that in about 25 years for them to decide that our interpretation of the sequencing as we understand it today is all wrong, and they'll do this all over, in which case hopefully I'll be good and dead. Keith.
One comment, one question. I think I discovered, because of your presentation, why I have failed so much with Oncidiums. One of your points was less water than Phalaenopsis. Now, generally speaking, there's exceptions, but generally speaking, the thicker the root, the less water. And I've always believed Oncidium roots are thinner than Phalaenopsis. I've been watering my Oncidium group too much.
Very possibly, and I've done the same thing. Okay,
They're thinner roots.
yeah, they've got these little thin roots, and if you listen to Bill Toms, who grows bulbophyllums, okay, they got little skinny roots that gotta have lots of water. No, not so necessarily. Yes, sir.
The physical status of the pseudobulb, does a thick, unwrinkled bulb mean a healthy plant versus a wrinkled bulb mean a sick plant? Or are some of the species wrinkly?
It depends. Okay, yeah. I mean, you know, definitely as the bulbs age, you tend to get some desiccation, and they will desiccate when you repot them, okay? Because oftentimes when you repot them, those old roots no longer survive, okay? And so when I repot, I tend to really bust off the back bulbs, and they may go on my back bulb table to see if I can sprout them. But you're going to lose those roots, okay? There are definitely species that are inherently wrinkled. So you have to look at the whole plant.
There's no general rule for all the houses, or
No. Yes, sir.
What would be a cause for the inflorescence to sort of fanfold as it's trying to come out of the sheet? Would that be a lack of water?
The inflorescence wants to wrinkle itself.
It wants to get kind of fanfolded?
And that's a good question, because you'll see the lasagna leaves on these guys. Okay, the lasagna leaves are inconsistent watering. Okay, now whether that's too much or not enough, or just too much and not enough, okay? But you'll see the lasagna leaf, and that's basically the watering thing. My guess with the inflorescence could be that, or it got mashed. In other words, it wasn't able to emerge and something was on top of it, like another leaf, or the axil didn't open up or something. I would not worry too much about it, because I'll bet you next time it'd be just fine.
So many Oncidiums, we see spots on the leaves,
Mhm.
okay? I've been told a lot of that is inherent, and don't worry about it unless it gets out of control. Most of mine have spots, yet I have 2 ceiling fans, plus a water cooler in the summertime. I have sprayed with a contact fungicide. I even put Clorox in my water cooler.
Sure.
I've used a contact fungicide, I've used the systemic. Which would you use to get rid of spots? Contact or systemic fungicide?
Room in Hawaii.
Do you have that problem with spots on Oncidium leaves?
I do on some, okay, and I take the strategy of calling them sugar spots and telling people it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay.
Sugar spots.
I mean, you know, they really, I do not know. I have never heard a good explanation. I do know that are growers that make a big thing about their Oncidiums don't have any spots. Okay, great, whatever. It doesn't seem to bother with them blooming.
As long as they bloom, I don't care.
Yeah, and fungus is fungus. This isn't fungus. I mean, you can look through these and, yeah, I don't know.
Do you prefer a systemic versus a contact fungicide?
I don't like using a systemic fungicide in my greenhouse because I have a lot of moss on like my bulbophyllums.
Oh, yeah.
And if you use a fungicide, you kill your moss. Okay?
Or use a contact fungicide?
Um,
If you need.
I use alcohol.
Do you?
Yeah. Isopropyl.
Okay.
Okay? I put Physan in my,
I have 5.
I put Physan on my walls. Okay, to kill the moss that's growing on the walls in the greenhouse. I'll put Physan in the swamp cooler so that the wet wall doesn't grow fungus.
Okay.
But I don't use it on the plants except very rarely. But yeah, I've got big greenhouse fans and a half a dozen box fans in there going as well. Got them all? All right, guys.
Thank you,
Yes,
Sarah.
Pardon? No. The odontoglossums, what they used to call the odontoglossums are, but these intergenerics, again, that we've lost that in particular climatic requirements. Now, there may be one or more that are cooler growing than others, but again, I mean, the Oncidopsis, the pansy orchids are quote cool, and I can grow those in the cool end of the greenhouse with the pass. They're no more cooler than the pass as far as I'm concerned.